So they are con. Are they going to fight? No, they're not. Looks like they're going to dip. So they are taking like front half steamy. And then, oh, these guys dipped hard. Yo, what's up? You know, and there you go. I swear to God, you'll see fucking every team who does well generally gets one of those things through mid game, through, you know, or they'll pick it up early late game. But obviously they're the win condition now. I think the nerfing of height has been good, but I think it's almost like too far one way. I think now the low ground actually has an advantage. All right, so jump out the Kiara. Oh, and it hooks again. They can keep moving quickly. They won't have too much of an issue. Should be all right. We'll 4x's instead of 2x it. And we don't have to really what, because like we can see that they're isolated, but they're basically just going to be checking that there's no one on these hills here that can have sight lines on them. But by essentially staying high rather than jumping down into any of these little, I mean, it seems obvious when I point it out, but there's so many people who would have taken that line of sight instead, opening yourself all the way up to laser. If you come up on the top here, you have sight lines on people rather than the other way around. Seems obvious. Obviously, you got to stay your wits about you. But the amount of people who like, oh, I don't know how to mid-game path, that sort of thing. It literally, most of the time, comes down to just reacting to what you see in front of you and not being a complete fucking idiot. 71, well, they had 70 surge this game. Move in, and they're getting into a real good spot here. They will be pretty contested, but you never want to go down into Hydro. That's a death sentence, because you've got to try and get up these hills here. And there's going to be people perched up on the side of those ready to rail you. So getting up into here is actually a really good spot to be in. Ooh, look at that. Happy to get in. Once they get the refresh, they take the body and get out. Oh, they don't get the body, actually. Or they pick up the pad. Nice. This is one thing that I keep on saying about top tier players that no one seems to like really take notice of, is just the constant activity, always looking for something, always looking for an angle, always looking for a potential refresh. Like they're not confident in that, because they say if they get chunked or something, they're confident they can get the refresh later, or you know, get their health back later. So they get a nice kill there, really easily done. They now make a team basically full weak. Okay, we're just going to 4x this. They're in a really good spot. Any rotation, the fact that they can car to that last zone means that they basically got it on. Look at the mats they have left. 133, 139, 136. Yeah, so basically 130 for all of them. Based up on a really nice position, pretty central. They are ready to go. Making a couple people crispy, and they're sitting in edge and next zone. They're chilling out. 68 alive, bro. This is the kind of shit that makes me jealous of these other regions, man, because this would just never hold an OCE. This is like an FNCS lobby. 67 alive, and we're about to have 17 people die to surge. Particularly in cash caps, it's not a bad idea to try and key someone early, or to try find a kill early, specifically for this reason. If you're in these bigger regions. Obviously, dependent on who it is. You can identify someone or find, like I said, always being active, trying to find an easy kill. Can be quite important. They don't pull zone, but they basically do. So they're this team here. They only have to rotate a tiny amount. Nice and easy for them. Do it in black, so it's a little bit easier to see. They don't have far to go, so they can hold everyone who's sitting over there. If we look at that, there's a lot of people over there. That's an interesting distribution, isn't it? Because you'd expect a majority of the people to sort of be, you know, in this area here. What happens is people generally funnel to mountains. So you get people kind of like hugging each other's own builds, and you end up with these stacks. Because what happens is one person leads the way, they get forced to build by other people holding them or by sitting behind them, and you end up with this one channel of people who then divert right at the end. So the first person must have decided to head towards, you know, down this way a little bit. And then the others just branched off of him. Alright, zone pulls far. Pulls far for everyone. They do have pads, so they're chilling. So remember, verticality and awareness of verticality is super important. Once it hits to this zone, there is not much to worry about in terms of verticality. What there is to worry about is going through builds here, and it can be really tough to get out of those situations fast. So finding yourself in a really good layer early here is important. Name tags is better, sweet. Pretty sure he's looking for one with Zlim. It'll be interesting to see how everything goes. Alright. This creates a pad box. I'm sure he checked his head. Let's watch Savage here, because he's the one who's going to be calling where to land. Alright, let's go over to Savage, watch him, see what he does. Andretta tarps for this team, doesn't he? Oh no, Ref's guard leading the way. No, there we go. Andretta tarping. Now, awareness here could be slightly improved. They are the furthest left here by quite a way. Immediately, I'm thinking you're probably, you know, if you keep going like this, you're going to waste close to 100 mats if you're not careful. Cuts out. So now he can leave his left side open. Still blocking off his left side though, right? So I think there, if we count at, you know, I'm being super pedantic, but I think it's important to point out, right? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So okay, so we've wasted 80 builds, and the issue is that recurs, right? This is only first moving. There's second moving, third moving to go, and then there's final zone. You can always use 80 builds in final zone. So being super aware about when you can save mats safely is super important. So that's one thing that can be improved. Cutting out, that's Savage directing that. I think layer changing in these sorts of scenarios here is really important. Noticing, okay, there's heaps of people in front of us on this layer. What's the call here? This is when the IGL has to be super onto it. Is it to go up, to go down? Obviously, only being one layer up, your thought should never be to drop here. Your immediate thought should be, let's get up and over all of this shit. I'd probably be going up to, yeah, probably sitting, try cutting out. Try cut out maybe beside them. You can see that they've got no roofs or no cones, so that should be an easy-ish decision to make. Just cone that, sit above them. Then you're not pressuring height. You've got guys next to you, but you're not directly involved with having to confront them. So layer changing here I think is important. I think they changed layers, I can't actually tell. Okay, so zone pulls back. So they should be able to recycle depending on where they did go. Always looking for something here, eh? Looking for other players around him. So they did go up there, right? So that's confirmation about what they did do. So you can see that they're now coming back to the old shit. They would have gone, okay, let's get up one. And that's their tarp there that they then played through. And now they can drop back down. So again, that identification of I need to get up here, I need to get down here is really important. When you see an entire wall of people in front of you, your first thought is, I can't stay on this layer, I need to change. That, as a tarper, that should be your first reaction. So we just didn't see that happen on camera. We just see that they did it. We just didn't see how they did it. They own the space. That's one of the great things about going through shit that you already own, obviously. So setting up a nice tarp first moving can be useful. But obviously there are certain situations, like I said, where sometimes it's best to save mats. Gets a kill. He chases all that up. So Andretta now is leading the way. And there should be no issue with Andretta just continuing there. Should all be working together on that. Knowing each other's roles. So they seem to have pretty well set roles, which is good. And it pulls back. Continues to go. Sorry, so when I say back, I'm meaning from first moving. I'm still on first moving, so it continues to move on. And because they're the first guys out here, they can really establish this layer here. They're looking for a refresh. Look at the different angles here. Andretta goes in from there. Savage and Refsguard playing different angles. They don't oversend. Andretta obviously calls, or someone obviously calls, no, let's pull back a little bit. Looking to get double edits. But really simple stuff, but they're doing it well. How are we doing mats-wise? Refsguard's still got heaps of mats. Savage still got heaps of mats. So I probably would have liked to see a little bit more communication in terms of when to drop mats, because Andretta should never be getting to hard zero. Refsguard should always be there to be able to drop more more than often. Because what you don't want is to not be able to claim unless they've organized, okay, let's group up here. We're going to go for a refresh. We're going to, you know, you're going to take over and you're going to do tarping while I now look for frags. As long as there's the communication there, it's totally fine. And there you go. I think that's exactly what's happened. Refsguard's now taking over, and he's the one who's establishing them into that area that they need to be in. And not final zone. Basically, it's gonna pull like a diagonal slightly back across old builds, and then finishing there. So they will go through old builds for a little bit, but then they'll start having to establish over what would have been old builds from around half sort of time. And there you go. That's generally a win condition now, having a fucking one of these, and I'm fairly certain they picked one up earlier too. So we've got Savage with one, and now Refscar with one as well. Having two of these things is just broken. Savage does go down, trying to challenge someone with with low health, unfortunately. But they've done their job, right? And they've still got decent mats. 100 builds, 140 builds. They've still got enough builds to control some space, but they get through to second, so they've done their job. That's essentially all they need to do from low ground, especially if you've only got two up. With the chug cannon, you do have a little bit, like I said, you've got a little bit more win condition. Alright, let's 4x this. See where third zone pulls. So you can see what I mean? Like, in terms of just going to spots where, high spots that they can dominate. You look at all of those spots there, they're all where you can sort of perch up, refarm, and it's that Aqua style of gameplay. And if you need Surge, it's the right way to play. You just don't generally see it in Cash Cups and other regions because Surge is not as much of an issue. But you got a guy perched up on here looking for Surge on that sort of rooftop there. Got a 10 grouped up here, not really. They're all at a hill looking for Surge. Bunch of guys on top of Risky looking for Surge. Yeah, we'll leave this at 4x for a little while. 300 above, they are chilling. Hits another snipe, puts them 400 above. And they're just constantly tagging people. Like, being up in this position here gives them so much freedom above the lobby here. Look at the sight lines they have in terms of everyone over here, yeah? That tree is in the way, but they see everyone trying to rotate across from there. And they see everyone going back there. They've got full sight lines on basically all of this. Be able to tag up people back as well. So we'll leave this 4x for a little bit. I'm just going to blow my nose. Oh, a reboot. That is daring. A reboot. Is man serious? A reboot. In third zone, when you've got that many people around you and you're in zone. Not the smartest, I have to be real on the guy. Don't want to make the guy feel bad. Not the smartest. All worst case scenario zone for them. Now this is a real worst case scenario, and this is why I'm always keen on playing isolation mid game, right? Because trying to get out of this scenario here, when you got that many, trying to get into this zone when you got that many people around you is so difficult. So difficult. Let's see how they do it. Let's watch how Savage decides they're going to rotate this. Especially when you're not the dominant high ground team, right? So if you're this team up here, you can essentially just try bully people to rotate for you and then follow their paths. Again, that's something that Aqua kind of like pioneered, that style of sit back, sit on height, make people rotate for you and then follow them and just constantly bully them the whole way. What's their thought process here? This is the thing, they're going late enough so that they've got a path ahead of them. So they're waiting for all these teams that were ahead of them to rotate, and now all they have to really do is worry about that team playing Aqua style above them, right? Kind of like sitting up on height, waiting for others to rotate to then follow. So you can see Savage is being very aware of that team that he's worried about. They're close here. They're nice and close. So instead of continuing to take pressure, he's going to stop. Instead of continuing to rotate in while taking pressure, he's going to stop, just hold off the pressure, heal up, wait, and then go. So, like I said, always looking for something. Tier 1 players, never sitting, never waiting. Always looking for something. Because they're confident. They're confident they can win that fight. If they snatch that wall, they're going to crack them for 100 plus. Pre-edited walls. There you go. Setting up the pre-edits and resetting them. It is pretty cool to see pre-edits coming in, bro. I got laughed at by some guys for suggesting that pre-edited were things could be meta one day. I got laughed out of the Discord. Now look at that. There's like genuine strategy around them. It's crazy, man. Pulls far. We're probably going to see them pad here or try and recycle a pad. But they're actually relatively high. So one of the things that is useful about rotating in late and then ramping people at half-half, if you don't die on the rotation in, which is always a risk, if you are able to rotate up and over people, so maybe, I'd say maybe if you were higher than this team rather than on the same layer as them, if you're up higher, you can just see more. You can see pads. It's much easier to recycle pads the higher you get at half-half. But it's obviously riding the balance, because to get up and to get over teams, you generally have to rotate in late. So it's whether or not you can do that safely. There's all sorts of things to consider when you're doing something like that. As I say that, nothing really should happen. They go for a refresh. Always looking. As I said, tier 1 players, never sitting, never waiting. If you got the opportunity to get a kill, let's go back and see how we got that. Now, is it Savage who actually goes in for it? It is. So he just recognizes the fact that they're fighting. And then Rex Guard makes sure he's with him to keep him safe. Holds off, always right with each other. Playing as a team really nicely. Get the shakedown. Pick up another pad, hot flopper. Don't see too many of those, but pretty cool. Trying to get the triple spray in, can't quite get it. But we'll fast forward to first moving here and see how they play the moving zone. So I'm looking down the bottom there. I just saw 2 pads, I think. Yeah, so two launch pads for Savage, which makes a huge difference, right? If you've got 2 pads, you don't have to do any rotation with materials in first moving. So they win this game with 11 kills. You can see why. Because they're not going to have to use any mats through first moving zone at all. Like literally 0, because they have 2 pads. They've also got 2 of these fucking things. 2, is it? Savage and Andrea. They've got 2 of these, which means they can play low ground. And they're buffed low ground not only because of that, but because they have the 2 pads. 0 mats used through first moving, which is the most expensive zone if you have to use mats. They save them, they use all their mats, find refreshes earlier and easier, and basically the snowballing, which is when you get a kill, pick up 150 mats, and it leads to more space control, more kills more kills that are easier to find. Basically, if it works like that, if you get 2 pads and you don't have to use anything through first moving, it's literally just completely free. So again, we'll watch Savage. So again, if I'm him here, what I want to see is for him to literally control all 3 of these tiles here and just give his teammates more space to land in. Because what I don't want is for Pink to pop this edit here and for Refsguard or for Andretta to go flying into there on accident. Because you know how laggy those in-game lobbies get? What I don't want is for him to pop that edit and then for his teammates behind him to not have somewhere to land. Where am I? Right? So what I want to see straight away, you should basically the way that padding should work, the lead padder goes and you wait half a second. You actually let him go so that he can scout and he can pick a spot and then build a spot for you to land. So essentially he should be going 1, 2, 3, build out, and then you're not worried about your mates getting caught up in there. So if I play this out, so instead of just building the 1, don't let him land on that. Give him, let it tell him, wait another half second, wait another second after I pad, so that you've got time, or you let me essentially control a little bit more space as we land, so that it's a little bit safer for you coming in, because you've now had both teammates land directly on controlled space. Sorry, I had to. Land on controlled space by Pink's team, or by Pink's team, right? So if he's holding the edit here, right? If Pink's holding the edit in this box, one of them would have been edited down. That's a promise. There's no way they wouldn't have. So what I'm saying is controlling that space early, and if that means that your teammates have to actually wait a little bit, so that like I said, if you go and then your teammates wait a second and then they follow you on the pad, If they have to do that, that might be the better way to do it. I did that and the whole team landed on me. Well, at least you're landing as a team. You can fight them as a team. The worst thing is being dropped into someone else's box where you own nothing. And like I said, they get the entirety of first moving for free because they have 2 pads. So they'll just be landing on someone's mid-ground layer here. They actually did spend quite a few to get in there. So he had 81 going into this. He's now got 44, so they used about 350 mats. But they're in quite safely here, and they're not only in, they are extended out as well. So they've actually controlled a little bit of space outwards. Being the furthest out's never a bad thing. All that means is that if it pulls off, you can drop down and control dead side. We control isolated space a bit easier. So it pulls far, but backwards, right? So it's not going back because we didn't come from this way. It's just going far, but in a different way. So there will be dead space, which means that they have to use new builds. So Andretta leading. Good layer change. Is going to say they probably need to drop at some point, but I'm not too sure about dropping the ulti low. I'm not too sure I like this. The reason being is I'm just looking at this and I know how shitty that will be if they then have to get up the hill later. I think staying in a mid-ground layer here probably makes a little bit more sense. So rather than dropping to full low now, unless there's some strat or some prediction thing I don't know about, all I'm thinking about is how awkward it is to get up here if they need to. Right? And, I mean, what are the degrees, right? How many degrees of going up is potential? You basically got 180 degrees of going up that fucking hill potential, right? So it's basically a 50-50 chance that you're going to have to try fight your way up this hill at some point, and it's a sheer hill. There we go. Now we're getting it. That's what we want to see. Oh, I'd like to see him get up one or two more. Because, like I said, what you really don't want is to be caught up in all of that later, if you're forced to move up. Gets that kill there. So what I'm meaning is, you don't want to get suffocated underneath all of that, which could very easily happen. So I'm very interested to see where zone pulls here, right? Because getting up through all that is not going to be easy, and they haven't cleared layers either. They've not moved into here, which would make the most sense, because then you could at least, if it pulled up, you could at least play the dead side and be uncontested for it. So what I'm meaning by that is, if they're controlling space into this area here, and zone pulls, say, like in that direction, they can at least wrap around and be uncontested to get up the hill. But if they haven't extended out, they're going to have to do that while zone's moving in the direction. You just have basically a reduced amount of time to make the same sort of movement. So where does zone go? So zone continues to pull. So basically zone goes in that direction, which is a saving grace for them, because I think if it pulled up there, they'd be dead. So I think staying aware of that sort of stuff is really important, because what I'm looking at is a team who, if it pulls up that hill, they're going to have to extend out and then go up, which they don't have the time to do with zone. The only saving grace is the fact that they've got these fucking things. They've got two of these, which has saved their ass, but theoretically, that would be the better way to play it. Did you see the Avery tweet? No, I didn't. Should I see the Avery tweet? So they're just going to control space ahead of here. But I mean, like essentially, all they're doing now is just recycling what they need to. And because they've found the kills before now. They're chilling. And now, when you look at this, this is when you take low. This is when you take low. Because it's flat. You know that terrain is easy to control. And you've got the mats to do it. Or you can... Shut up. No, he doesn't. But you're in the position to do it, and now is the time where you need to start the snowballing, essentially, right? You need to get that 1 kill, because the 1 kill can lead to 2, can lead to 3, can lead to 4. You pick up 1 kill, it becomes easier, So he got that 1 kill on stretch, he's now got 210 builds, and he can start doing the centered edgy commandment classic, start taking builds out in front of them and storm. And as soon as you start to control that space, it becomes really, really easy for you to pick up those refreshes, because people walking 1 layer above you who are shambles, you can't quite get out of the space. They own all that space. Those kills are easy to come by, and as I said, that right there is a minimum 300 mats, which is, again, more space that they can control, easier kills in the future. Right, so he picks up, again, more builds, swap over to Savage. He's controlling everything ahead that they got from those refreshes. Drops them in. 3. You see how easy that looks? Literally, that came off the back. That came off the back of 1 kill. That came off the back of Refscar dropping or Andretta dropping, killing Stretch, and then finding, basically from there, controlling space, getting 2 more kills lead to 300 more mats, lead to more space control. It's that snowball effect of getting 1 kill leads to more. So simple, but so effective.